I'm Peter Vroom, and today I'm interviewing Richard Vroom.
I'm the owner of Richard Vroom Watercolors.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about how you started that?
Well, it almost started partially by accident. I was working as a business analyst, and I was painting on the side and had sold a few paintings in some galleries, and the company closed up its location in Salt Lake. And then I decided to take that on full time as a career, and went from there.
What was your opportunity space?
Well, when I started, I realized that a lot of the watercolors that were on the market weren't high quality or they were overpriced, and so there seemed to be a good market for quality watercolors at a reasonable price that had a variety of topics, and I paint a lot of Utah topics.
And didn't you do some lessons too?
Yeah, when I started, I had a professor or a instructor at Slick come and talk to me about watercolor lessons, and so I started giving her lessons, and she said, I'm not very good at this, why don't you contact the U, because they have a position for instructor. So I did, and once I started there, I've been doing classes every term or two a term for the last 7 years. So once I started there, I started doing the classes, and the demand was high for a good teacher, and so they want me to do classes every single time they have an opening.
And this is your own studio, you teach lessons on the side too?
So then a lot of my students in my classes at the U loved the teaching and wanted to paint more. And so I started giving a few lessons, and it became a market that was big enough that I had to go out and rent a studio, and so I have a pretty good sized studio, and I do classes 6 or 7 a week. So I've created a pretty good demand, and I have to turn away people. I have too many students.
What's the value and use in your business?
Well, I've created a good little niche in sales, and by filling a price point and market for certain types of paintings. I've also had a lot of people commission work. They commission, I've done portraits and animals, as well as just other spaces, or topics that they think would be good. As far as the lessons, I filled a niche there where I get so many people that come to me and say, oh yeah, I've taken lessons here or there, and the professor doesn't explain things, it doesn't go through it, in enough detail, or isn't there to help us when we have trouble.
So all your students like your classes? And
yeah, I've had some people taking classes with me for 4 or 5 years, and they joke about it all the time because they started with continuing education, and that's their joke, is that they're doing it continually forever. Lifelong education, yeah.
Your value in exchange is similar to your value in use, where you do private lessons. Am I correct?
Yes. I do lessons where people get the value of a small class for the same cost as they were getting at a big class at the U. So they find that very effective, and it's a much more intimate setting. We can paint paintings that they want to do, and most of the students are at a similar level, so they can keep up, and it makes for a more enjoyable class, and they continue to take lessons for years.
So how many students are in your individual classes?
Well, they range from 3 to 6. It's usually about 4 or 5 is the base I'd like to keep. You get smaller than that, it's not cost effective for me. Larger than that, and it gets a little bit big and hard to manage. So that's what I found is a good point to get the most satisfaction for the customer, and I still make my price point.
So are your classes at continuing ed hard to manage because there's so many people?
Yeah, they can be, and you get such a wide variety of personalities and abilities. So you get people that want to paint super slow, super careful, and then other people go really fast, and that is just like herding cats. It's hard to keep everybody on the same page, and so some people enjoy those more than others. I try to move fast, and a lot of times people say that when I first started I couldn't keep up at all, but by the end I was able to, and it made it so much better because we accomplished so much more.
How do you distribute your paintings?
Well, I get a lot of word of mouth, But I also like to do art shows, and they're kind of complicated. You have to enter, like I've done Park City and a few others. Um, but it really helps with easing distribution. You know, people come to you, you have a wide variety of paintings there. They can look at, 100 paintings in a site, in a single, setting, and, you get hundreds of people walking by. So it's a pretty effective way to get your paintings out there.
And do your students tell their friends about your paintings or buy paintings themselves?
Yeah, I often get word of mouth. I have people that either buy something and then somebody else sees it and then they would like something or they'd like to see something. So I get a lot of reference and referrals, and I get commission work that way too.
How has your value in finance changed over the years since you started?
When I first started, I had a lot of paintings in galleries, and that's obviously a great way to go, but galleries take 40%. By the time I frame it, I'm getting 50% of the sale price as profit. So that's a hard thing to make a lot off. It's also, you can't put very many paintings in a gallery. You can't have more than 2 or 3 because they have lots of artists associated there. So I've tried to work the shows word of mouth. I do some other shows where they don't take as much of a break. And I've also, since I've started doing lessons, I've gotten quite a following, a market, and that's a very good way to even out cash flow. Because when you sell a lot of paintings or you have a show, you might make a lot, then you have 2 or 3 months where you don't make much. And by doing lessons, I get an even cash flow every week, where a nice sustained revenue.
As I understand it, you don't have a website, and does that offer a lot of growth potential?
Yeah, I've been kind of dragging my feet on the website. I had someone that was going to build one and hasn't. Yeah, that shows or should show a lot of room for potential. I can put a lot of paintings on there, and people outside of Salt Lake can view those. So that should be a great growth model. I've also recently moved studios, so I have a bigger studio here. It's a little more accessible, so that has also helped. It's a little easier for people to find, and it has a little more space, so I can fit more customers, more students.
On the website, would you just sell paintings, or would you consider having an online sign-up sheet for your classes?
See, I could do that too, and my son actually said I should do a kind of a painting demonstrations and put them on there to show people what the lessons would entail. So that would be a good way to do that as well, to add students.
So you could have online classes as well. If you
I could
want.
even do, like an even online videos
Yeah.
of demos, because I see some of my students tell me to look up a demo on YouTube, and I look at them and I go, oh, that's not very good. I go, I could do better than that. So yeah, I think there's an opportunity there as well.
So there's a big online market that you're looking forward to getting into?
That's something that's definitely could be a big expander for the business, and something I need to address a little more.
Can you tell me where you get your resources, like your paper, paints, and frames?
I have a variety of sources I use. I've been in the business long enough to know what is a good price for a product, and I've found the good distributors, so I have wholesale accounts set up with a few. As far as frames for my paintings, I get a lot of those out of state. There's 1 or 2 places, so every time I go to California, I load up the back of the car with frames, and that seems to work out great because they're high quality frames at a low price that I can't get here and they won't ship. So I'm aware of that, so every time I do make a trip, I make sure that I stock up on that kind of equipment. Yeah.
Do you ever pay other people outside of the state to get wholesale price on frames or whatnot?
I've tried to have people pick stuff up. If I know somebody personally that's going to one of those other locations, I've called and made purchases, and they just go by and pick it up. But it's hard to ship some of those items because they're so fragile, so they won't ship them. So you have to pick them up, and that's a little bit of a toughie. But that's what happens. And I don't have other employees, so I'm in charge of all my own resources. So I'm well aware of what goes on in the company.
What advice do you have for any future entrepreneurs?
Well, mostly if you're really passionate about something, then you don't mind working hard, and you'll be much more vested in making a success. So that's the main thing. If you just want to try and make money, that may not motivate you. Well, it might motivate some people, but if you're really passionate about it, and then follow through, that's a real key to success.
And that's how you started, right?
That's how I started, right?
You just had a passion for it.
Yep. So yeah, that would be my advice. And learn what you can, and then make sure you have alternative or ulterior plans if things don't go quite the way you plan it to go. So a little backup, see if you can keep it going, and maybe divert some of your energy to something else for a while. Then you can come back to it, and that could be a good alternative for some people if they don't have the time.
And you talked about painting on the side while you had that business job, right? And is that a good way to kind of get into it?
And that's a great question. A lot of times, don't quit the job you're in and think you can start off right away and make enough to sustain yourself. If you can learn a little bit of the ropes and get yourself into the business while you're working another job, and find out what you need to do to be successful, then that's a great way to enter any sort of field or entrepreneurial endeavor.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.